Friends, family, listeners, America, imagine, if you will, a spin-off of Gnomeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes, in which a group of garden ornaments, sentient garden ornaments, voiced by a variety of different mid to high level celebrities, go on a mission to rescue one of their own from a tribe of cannibals. I'm talking Gnome Tomahawk, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to I Like to Movie. My name is Dan Scully.
My name is Garrett Smith. This is my favorite evolution of this, that we've just now gotten into theatrical productions as introductions to our show.
We got to pitch some gnome movies.
Also, is Sherlock Gnomes a real thing?
That's a real thing, and the only reason I know about it is because sister podcast, Dep Impact, that Jenna does, she had to watch Gnomeo and Juliet, Sherlock Gnomes, because Sherlock Gnomes is voiced by Johnny Depp.
What?
And
how
it's
did I
crazy
not know it was a thing?
Well, he's like a Minions kind of thing, in that, like, Gnomeo and Juliet is a movie where they took the idea of Romeo and Juliet and made it with garden gnomes. I think the rhyme happened first, and then the concept of the movie happened later, which means that it's, so like Sherlock Gnomes, I think, just shows up for a scene or two,
sure,
Puss in Boots style, and then got his own movie, Sherlock Gnomes. And so I imagine that the same way that Minions are just ubiquitous, I think that there's going to be gnomes everywhere. We'll have Gnome Alone, Gnome Alone 2, Lost in New York, I don't know, and Gnome Tomahawk.
Are we talking, this movie had a theatrical release, and I don't remember an animated Johnny Depp movie called Sherlock Gnomes?
Yep.
Holy
it had a
hell.
theatrical release. I don't know whether it's Gnomeo and Juliet or Sherlock Gnomes or both, but I know that one of them has like a full Elton John soundtrack.
Great.
So, I imagine that they're probably fine, for what they are, but I mean, I'm never going to confirm that by devoting any time to it.
It's like, I mean, it's crazy to me that there's a movie called Gnomeo and Juliet in the first place, but it was wild to me when you started listing more examples of movies in that universe. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. The only two that exist are Gnomeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes. Yeah. I just want Gnome Alone, Gnome Alone 2, Lost in New York. I would love to see The Forbidden Gnome, which is like the Forbidden Zone, but, with everything in there, including the, like, rapey demons, it'll all be there. Danny Elfman is back for the soundtrack.
What's Green Zone? Is that a Matt Damon, Paul Greengrass movie?
It is indeed.
Green Gnome.
I love it. I love it.
I don't even know how you would end up spelling that. It would be
Call
very
Me
confusing.
By My Gnome. Oh man, let's just do this for the whole episode. All it is just
gnome heads. It's just cone heads, but with gnomes.
Just pointing. Well, that also brings us around to Bio-Gnome, in which two like stoner gnomes have to live in a biosphere for a year.
Wait. Bio-Gnome is a good pitch. That's
a pretty good pitch. Yeah. Actually, because it would be like, what would happen is they'd build the biodome like humans would, and then they'd be like, we got to make this a little fun if we're going to be in here for a year. You want some garden decorations? So they get some gnomes. Bio-Gnome. And we can get Pauly Shore to voice the gnome. I see no reason why that's not possible.
I don't see
Stephen Baldwin too.
I was just going to say.
William? I forget which one
it is. Yeah. I'm trying to think. What other gnome movies you got?
We could do. I'm looking at my
Sweet Gnome, Alabama.
Sweet. That's pretty good. I mean, we could have the Gnomon.
Oh man, the Gnomon's good. I like the Gnomon.
Good.
The Gnomon's real good.
Whenever a gnome gets their head cut off by a Final Destination thing, it would actually shatter because they're made out of like ceramics.
Yeah. Also, you would have to come up with a whole mythology for, like, the second coming of Satan gnome.
Yeah, that's true. They'd be like, if you look behind Damien Gnome's hairline, you will see a manufacturer's stamp from the sculptor.
That's right.
That says 666.
Yeah, that's right. Satan is like actually a dog in that universe.
He's just
yeah.
They're like, no.
Yeah.
I have to look at my shelf. Day of the Dead, no. Magnolia. Magnolia. Sad gnomes. Yeah.
A gnome drama. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Boogie Gnomes.
Boogie Gnomes. Boogie Gnomes is good. Could you do all of P.T. Anderson's movies with gnomes?
Let's see. There'd be Hard 8,
Punch
which
Drunk
originally was
Gnome?
called Sydney, so it could be Sid Gnome.
Sid Gnome.
Yeah,
I mean,
Punch Drunk
Punch
Gnome is
Drunk
pretty
Gnome.
good.
Yeah.
There will be gnomes.
There will be gnomes is good.
That's really good. There will be gnomes.
Inherent Gnome?
Inherent Gnome actually kind of plays nicely.
Yeah.
Phantom Thread, or because I don't want to just have Phantom Gnome. That seems.
No, I know. Phantom Thread is pretty good. That fits enough that I like it. Yeah, I think if you can portmanteau it, you have to, right?
Yeah, you gotta. If you can't, but if you can't, Gnome actually fits in. Oh wait, dude, I just got it. There's one on my shelf that just jumped out to me, and it would be you could never turn this into a kids movie, no matter how many gnomes you throw at it. Video Gnome.
Oh my god, Video Gnome is wonderful.
That would be insane. Just a gnome that has a fucking stomach pussy that it pulls guns out of. Oh, I love it.
A gnome that's like spends most of the movie sweating and smoking cigarettes and talking about how the gnome pornography he's watching isn't hardcore enough.
Just being horribly chauvinist to a gnome version of Debbie Harry.
Yep.
Oh, that's incredible.
Debbie Gnome. Would she be Debbie Gnome or Gnome Harry?
I like Gnome Harry, and I also really like the idea that it would be directed by David Cronenberg.
Pretty good.
Yeah, James Woods in gnome form would be great because, I mean, as proved by Family Guy, James Woods is a very talented voice actor, too.
Sure, yeah.
Granted, he only plays James Woods.
Yeah.
That blows my mind, too, that he clearly has a sense of humor, as evidenced by his work in Family Guy.
Yeah.
But he clearly doesn't, as evidenced by his real-world life and the way he exists. Yes. It's so weird to me.
Yep.
So weird to me.
It's definitely a weird one. I just love the idea that, like, because of his role in Videodrome, you get to have that thought experiment of, like, did David Cronenberg, like, kind of, like, see through this guy immediately and was like, I bet he did. Are Max Schreck, you motherfucker. Like,
I mean, Cronenberg seems to be pretty smart about his characters. Yeah. So you wonder. Yeah. Because I imagine, too, at least of what I'm assuming about James Woods, is that if you want to get a good performance out of him, you just have to fucking suck his dick. Yeah. And I'm not talking literally. I'm talking like... No, yeah. Like, make it... Like, if you cater to his ego and just be like, James Woods, we already know you're the coolest, so I want you to bring that on screen. Be the coolest. And he's like, okay, babe. And then he's his asshole character in Videodrome. It makes sense.
I like imagining that David Cronenberg had to, like, encourage him in some way that, like, oh no, Max is the hero of this movie. Like, he is a good guy. You know, like, he had to like play into, like, no, you can be yourself because he's a good character. Like, don't worry about it. Like, because he needed him to be like,
he's right. And he is right.
Right.
James is like, oh, I got it.
As, like, unself-consciously self-confident as possible, you know? Like,
he's such a fucking... I love him so much, and I hate him. Yeah. But, like, my hate for him fuels my love in a way. Like, he fascinates. Yeah. Also, this just popped in my head, but Gnometheus.
Whoa. Into it.
That would be real fucking good.
Yeah, it would.
And then you could have Alien Covenant.
I was trying to get there as you got there.
Alien Covenant would be able to... oh, man, now this is all I want to do.
It would have, twin robot gnomes that karate fight each other after making out.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's free money. They might as well just print money in a money factory.
Right.
Watch Gnome instead of Watchmen doesn't work as well. Mid-Nomar.
Mid-Nomar.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, now it's too far away. Fear and Gnoming in Las Vegas.
Fear and Gnoming.
No, we're stretching. Good. Reservoir Gnomes would be really fun to watch.
Ooh.
Because you could literally paint them pink, Mr. Blonde. You could actually go that way with it. And I am sure Michael Madsen's acquisition price is very low at this point.
Directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Beautifully done. Well done. I can't believe that this is what we're doing today. But hey, I'm totally into this.
Why not? The audience can know that we're recording this at like noon on a Saturday, which is unusual for us. And I think, maybe we're a little loopy. It's pretty good.
It is what it is. I just had a ton of coffee and
I know.
you know,
I love morning energy. I don't know how to describe it, but I've always been like kind of a morning person, and I have a lot of good creative energy in the mornings.
I had a shift because when I was younger, late teens, early to late, like teens into like mid to late 20s, I was very much a like my creative juices would flow at like 3:30 a.m. And I
Yeah.
think it was just because of the lifestyle I was living. I was waiting tables during the day, doing stand-up comedy at night, and then like after that is when everything's kind of flowing.
Yeah.
But then you hit that like old age. Once I got like a 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
suddenly I was awakened to the idea of like, no, there's a system to this whole we've evolved to adapt with the sun thing. There's a reason why our bodies are work this way. And yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
morning is my favorite.
I love it. Yeah, I watch a lot of movies in the morning. Like that has become like kind of routine for me. Is like because some days I get up at like 5,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
hours before I need to be to work. So and now I don't need to go anywhere to go to work. I just need to walk upstairs. So sometimes I'll like go sit on the couch and just watch a movie at like 5 a.m. and
That's a great feeling.
it's awesome actually. It's like I feel like my brain is in this like really interesting kind of creative space where I don't know. I just receive movies well at 5 a.m. I don't know how to describe it. You can show me the weirdest shit you've ever showed me, and at 5 a.m. I'll be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I got into that when I was living alone for the first time over at Center City.
Yeah,
That was one of those things where on a Saturday before I did anything, I'd like pop awake and just stay in bed and like pull out my iPad and just watch literally anything.
Yep.
And it's great because it ends and like the day still hasn't started yet. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. I can toss one on the Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Now I'm more of a read in the morning kind of person.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
But because like I'm usually too tired to read at night.
Yeah.
If I'm ever gonna have sex, it's in the morning.
Uh-huh.
It's so much better that way.
Uh-huh.
Much
I'm
better
with you.
performance because at night it's like, here's a better idea. Let's not.
Yeah.
But in the morning it's like, I mean, it's coming out one way or another. No, that's terrible. No, but in the morning there's that energy, is the voice
Yes,
that the
I
point
definitely
I'm making.
all of my energy comes like pre 5 p.m. basically.
Yeah.
5 p.m.
Oh,
on, I'm done.
It's so crazy. It's not fair. It's not fair. But it's not fair.
But
all right. Should
yeah.
we try and get? Maybe this is too big of a challenge. I was gonna say, can we gnome all of the Star Wars?
Oh my God. Okay, so Fan Gnome Menace, Fan Gnome Menace, right?
Yeah, Attack of the Gnomes.
Attack of the Gnomes.
So easy.
Revenge of the Gnome? That's not that fun.
Yeah, that one's tough. I mean, we could actually do like we could call it like Star Wars Epinome 3, but that doesn't. Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it is a gnome hope, a new gnome.
I think a gnome hope is good.
Uh-huh.
The Empire Strikes Gnomes.
You're right. Yeah.
That's kind of scary. Yeah, maybe this kind of dies.
Return to the Gnome. Return to the Jedi Gnome.
The Gnome Awakens.
Jedi. Yeah, the Gnome Awakens. The
Gnome 1.
Gnome 1.
No, we gotta have Gnome
1. Gnome, a Star Wars story. I mean, I don't know what you do with the Solo.
I mean, yeah.
The Last Gnome, the Gnome Jedi. These are tough actually.
They're rough. Can we do
the rise of Sky Gnomer?
I mean, that actually just sounds like a cool movie by itself that has nothing to do with Sky Gnomer. That reads like Homelander from The Boys.
Yeah. That's right.
The gnomes.
Fast and Furious universe. What is that?
That's another one too, though, where like since it's all just riffs on the
same two words.
Yeah, Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
that might be tough.
Yeah, Gnome and the Gnomerus.
I mean, GNOMEO Drift is one there, and it also ties it back into Gnomeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
But after that, it's all just a fast gnome or furious gnome.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's also Fast and Furious presents Gnomes and Gnome. Which is not at all.
That one I like.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. It would certainly be better than that movie.
I like and actually, because you could just call that the Fast and the Furious presents Gnomes and Gnome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like how it's gnomes and
Yeah.
gnome. You gotta have that.
Exactly.
Gnome of Steel. I'm looking at my stack again. Once
Uh,
Upon a Gnome in Hollywood.
you could do like
Firewalk with Gnomes.
the Gnomezilla movies. Those are pretty easy.
Ooh. Yeah, Gnomezilla is just amazing.
Yeah, because then all the titles are just Gnomezilla versus
Mecha Gnomezilla. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Terror of Mecha Gnomezilla.
I'm trying to work Mothra into a gnome.
Nope.
Can't do it.
Can't. Gnomera. I don't know.
Moment Gnome.
No.
The hills have gnomes. No, not quite there. Mr. Show season 1, but with gnomes.
Mr. Gnome.
I'd watch it.
Which is just Sherlock Gnomes again.
Twin gnomes. Firewalk with gnomes. Nothing.
Right.
Let's see. What did I watch this week? This week we were talking before we started recording. This week I've kind of been going through the Benson and Moorhead filmography, which has been really, really great, as kicked off by Synchronic. And I had already seen Spring. Synchronic rocks, dude.
I gotta see that.
It's cool.
Heard good things about Synchronic.
Very, very. Actually, I had a Jamie Dornan weekend last weekend because I watched Synchronic, and I watched the incredibly, surprisingly good Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
I still have not watched this, and everybody is enjoying it, and I want to as well.
It was a commercial that regularly popped up in my weekly viewing of RuPaul's Drag Race, and every time I would go, what the hell is this movie? Like, are these SNL characters that I'm not familiar with because I haven't watched in a while? Like, what is this? Just a couple of, like, mom stereotypes going on vacation? Hard pass.
Yeah.
It's like it's going to be a parade of cameos, and it's just going to be some stupid thing where they do these characters. And I am so pleased to report that I could not have been more wrong.
Yeah.
Because so many, like, critics that I respect were like, this is actually seriously good. And, like, Jacob was going off about it. And so I was like, all right, I got an hour to kill. I'll put it on. And no lie, within 5 minutes, I was, like, tearing from laughing so hard.
That's great.
It is very, very... I would say it's like pop star adjacent in that it's like just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep.
But it reminds me in form and function like an Austin Powers style comedy.
I've heard a couple other people say that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's one of those where like 3.5 out of every 5 jokes works.
Yeah.
But there's 25 jokes every minute.
Yep.
And it's just nonstop, and it's so weird, and like. Even Barb and Star aren't even that consistent to this weird character. The only consistency is they're going to make the weird choice. And so it's just very aggressive weirdness, but it is funny. And Jamie Dornan is fucking hilarious. All
right.
Yeah, it's weird as hell, man. Like, truly, truly weird. There's a couple, like, bang-up musical numbers that come out of nowhere, but it's not a musical.
Cool.
And just, like, it becomes established very quickly that you're like, oh, this doesn't take place in anything resembling a real world.
Yeah.
Everyone in this world is weird. Everything in this world is crazy. And it's also just a hard sci-fi movie for certain portions.
Whoa, okay, I like that.
It's fucking wild. That's what sold me on it, is everyone's like, yeah, it's kind of there's like sci-fi elements. And then you watch it, it's like goofy, cosmic, hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
With multiple roles played by Kristen Wiig. I can't talk it up enough. It is so funny.
I'm into it.
And I almost like, it's weird the shame I feel in saying it, because I shouldn't feel shame in saying it. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But like, I just resisted it so hard, and then was just but hey, that's the beauty of open-mindedness.
I mean, I was looking forward to it just based on literally the one-time reputation of Kristen Wiig's, writing career.
Yeah.
Bridesmaids is a great script. And so I was
such a good movie, yeah.
Like I don't know, that is a good enough movie that I was like, yeah, I mean, if her name is on this, like, I'll definitely check it out. Like, I'm interested to see what else she's able to do. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah.
Weird as shit.
Yeah.
And it has a great soundtrack.
Cool.
It's a mix of like weird songs that are like, mom yacht rock. We're all going on vacation in Vista Del Mar kind of thing.
Yeah.
As well as like, there's this one song, I forget what it's called, but it was totally killer. And I was like, this is funky. And I Shazammed it. And it turns out it's just a duet between Barbra Streisand and Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees.
Whoa.
And I was like, no wonder this shit's dirty. Man, I can't speak to the merits of this movie enough. I kind of needed it. Like,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just a real good laugh that I hadn't had in a while.
That's good. I like that. Also, it's nice to have a comedy movie that people are talking up that's not like Hubie Halloween, where it's like, yes, it is serviceable in this moment, but not actually great. You know what I mean?
Serviceable should have been the title of Hubie Halloween.
Yeah,
I am actually not on board with the whole, like, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm on board with is, oh, cool, I recognize all these people. Like, it was fine, but like, that is a shitty fucking movie. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah. I got enough giggles out of it, and I actually thought it was like gorgeous. It's like one of the better looking comedies I've ever seen. That I was like, okay, this is fine for an afternoon, but I didn't get the like, actually, it's good. Like, that didn't totally
that didn't gel. I did enjoy myself, and I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so here's the question though, and this is the thing, is like, in Barb and Star, the question of what even are Barb and Star besides like these, like, I don't know what world.
Yeah.
But the world that they live in makes it very clear that they can exist.
Okay.
That doesn't happen with Hubie.
Right.
I don't know what Hubie's deal is.
Right.
And the world that he lives in, it almost seems like watching it, I'm like, oh, I think this guy's unwell.
Right.
Like, that's like, it just reads as like, this guy actually, like, I don't know if I want to laugh at people throwing trash at him, because I think he actually might have some deficiencies that are clinical, as opposed to just a goofy character.
You know what's weird?
I don't mean to be that guy who's splitting hairs on that level, because I don't actually care that much, but it just, the comedy is weird like that.
That movie made me realize that Adam Sandler comedy is always like that. And something about him getting older has made it just like stop working.
Yeah,
like,
that's interesting. I guess you're right. It has kind of always been
if you
like that.
think about what Billy Madison is, it's the same thing. It's like, what is the world of Billy Madison? Like, it like there's no consistency to the way people behave or who interacts with who in what ways. Like, it just like is a bunch of really fucking weird characters in a world that like seems to be our world, but populated by these fucking weirdos. You know what I mean? Like, And that's okay to some extent, but it does. The older he gets, the harder that pill gets to swallow, I think, you know? And
I think, too, is like, I think you're right, because, when he's younger, it's like, oh, yeah, he's like this drunk maniac, Billy Madison.
Right.
And this world's just kind of goofy. But, like, in Hubie Halloween, it's just like, there is magic, there isn't magic. This 50-year-old man is hanging out with children. Like, it just, it all doesn't. And I think, you're right, his age changes it. Like, to have someone in his late 20s being drunk and doing, is funny. To have a man in his 50s, like, still leaning on you, it's like, I don't know. Why don't you go cut another Hanukkah song and we'll talk?
Well, and, like, it did make me laugh at some point when, like, boots got thrown at him when he was on his bike.
Yeah,
you know how that happened every time?
Yeah.
It got, like, it wasn't funny at first, but it got funny, like, the 40th time they did it. It was one of those things where, like, because it happened every time he got on a bicycle, I started to laugh about it.
Yeah.
But I also don't know why that's happening. And like you said, the only real thing that my brain can latch onto is like, so he's like a mentally disturbed adult that the whole town just throws shoes at every time he's on his bike. Like, it's just like, you can't really,
You're like, on paper, okay. It is weird. And what's weird is I love Adam Sandler. I still actually have to watch his new stand-up special. I say new, it's like 2 years old.
I've heard it's good.
He was like my favorite growing up. I idolized him. And so I'm just happy that he's still making jobs and still making movies and doing it in a way that provides jobs for his friends. Yeah. I think that's like super respectable. But I'm not so much so that I'm willing to throw critical acumen to the wind and be like, yo, Hubie Halloween, bugs. That movie is pretty shitty.
Yep.
It's very enjoyable, but it's shitty.
I know. I would like to see, like, I hope that there are other morons like me out there that saw that movie and were like, wow, looks great, though. And, you know, hire him to actually make something interesting. You know what I mean? Like, find him a better movie to shoot.
And it seems, too, like, I didn't watch Sandy Wexler, but that seems to be pretty well-loved.
Right.
It seems that he does still have it in him.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, it's almost like a filmography version of what I said about Barb and Star, where it's like, not all of the gags work. So not all of the Sandler movies work, but he makes them at such a clip that you're bound to have a mix of good and bad that just is what it is.
Yeah, like there's part of me that sort of wanted to see the murder mystery one that I think might have literally been called Murder Mystery.
I
Him
think it
and
is, yeah.
Jennifer Aniston. Not because it necessarily looked good, but exactly what you're talking about, where it's like he's making a ton of these, and like every once in a while, one of the premises, I'm like, oh, and that's one of the ones where I was like, yeah, I don't think this means it's going to be good, but you and Jennifer Aniston as a couple on a boat that are like, I don't know what it is, they're like international
Yeah,
spies or something, like,
something, yeah.
yes, I'm in. That I actually is a premise. I'm like, okay, like, what
Yeah,
are you gonna
I'd
do?
watch it, and
But
I'd give it a fair shot.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't love the Ridiculous Six at
I didn't see
all.
that one. Yeah.
There's a lot of like there's this one scene in the Ridiculous Six where John Turturro's character basically invents baseball, but like anytime that they go like basically it's mocking the idea that every rule in baseball feels like it was made up on the fly until
Right.
the game was, and so it's the same kind of thing where it's like, well, what if this happens? It's like, well, no, that doesn't count because I am on base. I'm safe on the, and like it's just them like trying to confront the rules of this game that John Turturro is clearly making up. But
Yeah.
every band-aid fix that he applies, the gag is he's just describing a weird baseball rule that is currently in existence.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a great gag, but like what is it doing in the middle of a weird Western comedy that has a title parody of the Hateful Eight or the Magnificent Seven or any of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just a big mess, but you can tell that that's probably something that they were all sitting around getting drunk and like riffing on, and it just was like on their list of like, all right, well, these are all the ideas we have to throw into our scripts. Can we get this baseball guy into our cowboy movie? Like it feels like that.
His movies, especially his late movies, definitely feel like Bob Odenkirk's book of sketches just like turned into a movie, but like at random. Like they just like threw darts at different sketches
Yeah,
and put them into a movie.
which can work.
Yeah.
And that was my criticism of, and it was a movie that I liked well enough. The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah, yeah.
The movie's silly, but it didn't feel like a movie. It felt
No.
like every gag Jarmusch came up with that he couldn't fit into another movie,
Yes.
he just put into this movie and was like, the zombies you can kind of do anything with now. Go. But like it was all just bits that he had come up with before.
Yeah. Dude, I watched like a lot of anime this week, and I don't know if you've ever put much time into anime, but I did watch one that I know
some.
you've seen. Yeah. I watched Ghost in the Shell this week for the first time, like the original anime. That movie is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
It like looks amazing. It's some of the best animation I've seen from like, especially like of that era of anime, like that kind of like 80s Japanese animation. It's so good looking. But Amazon only had like the American dub of it. And that was actually like one of the worst American dubs I've seen. I actually don't mind American dubs all the time. I think sometimes
Lots of
they're
times we
better
put
than...
like some good voice actors
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer the dubbed Mononoke.
Right. Yeah.
Because you get like Billy Bob Thornton in them.
Right, right. This was like what I think people imagine when they're like dubs are bad. It was literally like people doing voiceover like this for characters in the movie, like
them low quality audiobook reads.
Yeah, but man, what an incredible movie though. And like,
did you see the second one yet?
No, I haven't.
I remember because I watched both. There's probably a bunch. Like I know every anime franchise has 400 different things and spin-offs, and then the Power Rangers show. I watched the first two Ghost in the Shell, and if I remember correctly, I liked the second one better.
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't know if I could speak to that now. But
yeah,
it's definitely worth hunting down. I didn't go any further than that.
I will, because I read a little bit about that. I think it's like the movie is actually an adaptation of literally just like a side plot of the manga that it's based on. And the sequel is like the director of the movie making a sequel to his movie. It's like less related to like the source material, I think. But anyway, that made me more
like the second one felt more like tight plot.
Yeah.
But it's been a couple years, so I don't know. It just felt more like a whole movie with a plot, whereas Ghost in the Shell was a little more surreal.
Yes, it makes sense to me knowing that like or reading afterwards that like, it's like the director like pulled this kind of like literally a tiny plot element from the book Ghost in the Shell out and made a movie out of it.
Nice.
That like kind of makes its weird Because like you're saying, it is kind of loose and kind of, it's very existential. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, they're like, fooling around with a concept more than
yes.
trying to tell us the story of this robot.
Yeah. Really interesting shit though. Like, I don't know, the whole idea of that, especially like, it's one of those movies that, what is that, 30 years old now? Maybe, is it 40 years old now? It's like,
Maybe, let's see.
It was trying to envision the future then, and it still feels futuristic to me now, but like feels like we're moving into that future, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love too. It has like, excuse me, like a dated look of the future, but still like a very realistic futuristic look. And it's 1995.
Oh, 95. Interesting. Okay.
But I mean, 1995 is still 26 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's pretty far back. 1995. Yeah. Oh wow. Just looking at these screenshots, it looks great.
Yeah.
And I got to say, like, I don't care to comment on any of the controversies associated with it.
Yeah.
But the live action remake of Ghost in the Shell is really cool. I don't think
really
it's like
looking forward to watching it.
But it's a pretty good movie. I think it kind of mixes it's kind of shot for shot of the first and mixes elements of the second to make it a more coherent plot.
Okay.
But the effects are exceptional.
Yeah. I actually, I remember the trailer looking great. And now that I've seen the anime, I'm very much looking forward to seeing just the actual visual adaptation of it, basically.
There are images from that are still in my head, even if I couldn't really rattle off the plot details to you.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to seeing that.
It's worth watching. There's controversy that I'm just not gonna, I'm not gonna comment on it because I just don't care. But it is the kind of thing where it's like, I think that had to do a lot with the movie just not being seen. Yeah. And I think that however you feel about it, it is worth watching in an artistic sense. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just checking out how they adapted the visual elements of that story, because
it's cool.
It's such an existential thing too, where it's about minds and bodies and how they're separate from each other and stuff. I'm just curious how they figured out how to do some of that in a live action movie.
I love when sci-fi mixes wires and tech with tubes of bubbling liquids. Like it's fun that robots in the Ridley Scott Alien world have cum blood.
Yeah.
That's it's kind of that's so cool. I love the idea of the bionics of it. And I think in the animations of Ghost in the Shell, there's really a lot of biometrics is not the word, or is it? But it's not a USB drive going into a computer. You've got to plug in this goopy brain cord and that kind of thing. Very Cronenbergian, actually, in a lot of ways. I'm glad you watched that. That's a cool
dude.
movie.
I really liked it, and then it just sent me on a kick of I think I've watched 10 anime movies in the last week.
What else you got?
Dude, the best thing I watched is a thing called, and I'd never heard of this before. It's called Golgo 13. Have you ever heard of that? So it's the movie that I watched is called Golgo 13, The Professional. And I guess Golgo 13 is kind of like a Japanese 007.
Okay.
He's a manga character from, going way back, I think.
Can you spell that? Is it
Golgo? Golgo.
Okay, Golgo. Okay.
And it's he's just this big hulking kind of sniper for hire that is kind of unstoppable. And the thing I liked about this movie's from the 80s, I think. This movie's from 1983. It's got CGI from 1983, which I didn't know that anybody was even using CGI in 1983. It looks terrible, but it's very funny. But it only happens in the finale. In the finale, there's a CGI helicopter, and it looks insane. But the whole movie is very impressionistic. It's sometimes the background just kind of
disappears
and you're just watching characters run across nothing. Sometimes
yes. Running across a grid like that.
Yes. Yep. It's
I love his design.
It's got this kind of psychedelic impressionistic format to the visual story.
Is that a CGI helicopter?
Yep, you bet it is, baby.
That's so wild.
It's a crazy movie. I don't know. It's full of naked anime women. He's just literally every woman he encounters, he sleeps with, whether she's revealed to be a villain or not. He there's like a lot
So
of
he is a
really
Bond then, yeah.
yes, yeah. There's a lot of just like I literally called it Michael Mann-ame.
Nice. Oh,
It looks
sold.
kind of like a Michael Mann movie, but like as a surreal, almost psychedelic Japanese animation. You know,
I mean,
it,
Michael Mann, I think it's fair to say that his visual aesthetic is, very much like Post the Killer and kind of things like
yes,
that. So I can't imagine that he is not at least in some way influenced by some anime as well.
it's pretty interesting. I think if you think about it in that lens, anyway, it's really cool. I've never really seen anything like it. It's really unique. It looks great, but it looks great in a weird way. Like I think the first 5 minutes, I was like, huh. So it's like maybe a little cheap, but then you get deeper in and you're like, oh no, these are choices they're making. Like they're
I love that.
deciding to like do it this way. It's really cool.
That is one thing that I genuinely respect about anime is that a lot of times the animation can be really intricate, but
Yeah.
it's never, ever, ever afraid to be simplistic or like
Mhm.
minimalist is actually probably the word.
Minimalist. Yeah.
Like, the most iconic version being two people fighting where they just and it's
Right.
in the
Yeah.
background. But even that, it's like, what a cool idea. It's like, yeah, I guess we could put all these details, but if you can capture the energy in a minimalist sense,
Yeah.
that's a really fun thing that they do in a lot of animes that I find engaging.
And this
Um,
does like a lot of crazy stuff where like all of a sudden we're doing like three Brian De Palma split screens at the same time,
oh, I
or
love that.
like yeah, like sometimes there's just like I don't know how to describe this, but like a bunch of rectangular frames that kind of like appear on top of each other one after
Yeah,
another with action inside of them, like almost like comic book panels, kind of.
I mean, it's
It
exactly what what's his name did with Scott Pilgrim, like that kind of stuff. That's
Yes,
very
yes,
much influenced
Edgar
by that.
Wright.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It just is really the visual format of it is really fucking cool, and it's worth watching for that. And it's on Amazon Prime right now. Like you can
oh, right
watch it.
on.
Yeah,
I might check it out, especially because the tagline
yeah.
is
Please read
he
it.
shoots, he scores, he'll blow you away.
Yep,
That's the syntax of that is strange.
yep.
He
Uh, I
shoots, he scores, he'll
I
blow
fucking
you
really
away.
liked this movie, man. It is so weird in such a great way.
Every image that is on the IMDb is really cool. Like it draws my eye and has like a quality to it that's
Yeah.
very neat. Like yeah, like this says he's just hanging out in front of a bunch of surreal clocks.
Yep. Yeah. There's tons of stuff like that. It's really really neat. I liked it a lot. I really liked watching it.
Nice.
And but mind your neighbors. There are endless anime boobies throughout.
That's not gonna bother me.
Yeah.
Also, the only person who I can currently watch movies with in quarantine happens to be a huge Sailor Moon fan,
Yes.
and knows
It's funny.
knows the original source material where there was like, there's like lesbians among them and
Yeah.
things that were edited out in the American version. So anime boobies are not. We're not anti-anime boobies in this household.
While I sit up here watching anime in the background and working, Tori has been downstairs making her way through Sailor Moon.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, that's been on in the
We'll have to
background
connect
at
her
our
and
house
Jenna.
for past couple weeks.
That's
Tori's seen it
funny.
before. She like grew up on Sailor Moon and loved it. But she's like
She's
rewatching
probably
it now.
is she the same age as Jenna?
Probably. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
that was around the
Yep.
thing. But yeah, Jen's got Sailor Moon stuff all over her room.
Yeah, yeah. Tori's a big fan, and I love walking downstairs from like one anime to a different anime. It's just like
Yeah,
very
yeah.
funny to me that we're both doing that.
Oh, it's so cool though. I always anime is one of those things that like very rarely have I seen an anime that I disliked. I've always
Right.
found a way to enjoy them. But it's I guess it's kind of the same prejudice that I just silently have for a lot of animation where I just never think to press play on it
Yeah, yeah.
because even though this isn't true, I think in my brain I just view it as a lesser thing. And it's like,
Right.
well, if I'm going to devote 2 hours to a movie, I'm not going to watch a cartoon, which is so stupid. Like
Yeah.
I admit that that's so stupid.
I understand that though. Yeah.
But it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's why like people are like, you haven't seen Toy Story. It's like, in what world am I going to sit down and press play on Toy Story? It's just not. And I'm sure it's fantastic, and the stuff that I've seen from it is fantastic. I've
Yeah.
seen Toy Story 3. It's fantastic.
I
But I just like I can't imagine ever pressing play on it unless I'm put in a situation where I do. But I always love it when I do. And I really should watch some more anime because I think it has a much more direct influence on a lot of the cinema I like than a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, Western and Eastern entertainment have kind of been intermingling for the last like 50 years,
Oh,
basically,
for
and
sure.
influencing each other back and forth, and you can see, like one of the other ones I watched this week was something called Space Adventure Cobra, uh,
Sold.
and it's like it's honestly it's like it's not great because like the animation is definitely more on the minimal side.
Yeah.
uh, the storytelling is pure nonsense. Like I've never seen such nonsensical storytelling in anything. But because of that, it is like you can't engage with it. Like I couldn't focus on it for more than 5 minutes, but I never stopped watching it. I was
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
like, it just is endless fucking crazy psychedelic imagery that was really fun to be watching, even though I could never make sense of any of it. You know what I mean?
Kind of
Like
better
it,
that way.
yeah, but it is that thing of like I understand what you're saying too, where like it's the feeling that I have about war movies, where it's like at a certain point I'm just like I don't know, I've stopped engaging with this. I don't really know
Yeah.
like what I'm supposed to be watching. I think anime can get into that territory for some people. Like the space adventure movie was very much that way, where I was like I don't even really know what I'm watching, but I'm enjoying it. It's just like crazy. It's really weird.
You're like, hey, Space Adventure Cobra. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it is a weird prejudice. I don't know where it came from because 9 times out of 10, I love what I see.
yeah.
Have you watched Your Name yet?
No, that I'm actually so that and like Weathering Away with You and a couple of those other like recent big movies that
Yeah.
they've done like that I haven't seen yet, and I'm looking forward to watching. I think that's something I'm going to do soon.
Highly recommend Your Name because that was the one that I watched just on the strength of Ryan's recommendation, and I
Right.
think that was like our mid-year list that year.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm so glad I watched it and like really read nothing about it, just go into it.
yeah.
But man, the waterworks on that movie were fierce, but
Cool.
not in a way that I think you should be dissuaded from watching it.
No, no, yeah,
It's really, really well done. Yeah, anime is always, not always, but usually quite good. Like I've seen a lot of Cowboy Bebop, love it.
yeah.
Cowboy Bebop's fantastic. Of
The
course, I've
best.
seen Akira and things like
Yep.
that. But yeah, there's also just so much of it that I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, but I do want to watch like the Gundams.
Yeah.
I would like to watch. What was the one you were recommending to me that you went through the entire thing?
Oh, Evangelion.
Evangelion. That's it.
Yeah.
I would like to get that in because I feel like that's a homework piece where I'm gonna watch it and recognize a million different things that I never realized were indebted to it stylistically.
And I do think you'll like that. Like that is one of the more just kind of like I don't know, tremendous works of art in anime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's I think it's hard to watch that and be like, eh. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I think you would dig that one. I like that one a lot. That's actually one of the things I was watching was like, what the hell is it called? Daikon Opening Animation 4.
That was like going around on social media.
Yes.
That opening animation where like everybody shows up.
Yes.
I haven't watched the whole thing, but it like kept flooding like my Reddit feeds and things like that. So I need to just sit down and spend what was it like 9 minutes on it.
It's like 8 minutes long. It's on YouTube. It's very easy to find. It's awesome, and it's the company that ends up making Evangelion. That's why I brought it up.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of what started me on this kick. Was I saw that fucking video floating around Facebook, the same as everybody else, I think, and I was like, "What is this?" Like at a certain point, she's doing the. It's like a what we're talking about is an animation short called Daikon 4 opening animation, I think. Daikon. I looked all this up. Daikon is like a science fiction convention in Japan that's been going on since the 80s. And so this was like an animation that they were commissioned. This like animation studio was commissioned to make as like kind of the opening ceremony thing. And so they didn't license any of this. It's an opening animation where for 8 minutes you just see Spider-Man versus Darth Vader versus Star Trek versus it's all of this fucking like iconography from America and Japan, and they licensed absolutely none of it. It's all set to an ELO song that they did not have the rights to, and it's great. It's like wonderful. It's really fun to watch. It's an anime girl in like a Playboy bunny suit surfing on a sword. That's like from some famous like fantasy series.
That's so cool. I only
awesome.
watched like maybe like a minute and a half of it just because it kept popping up. I do want to sit down and watch the whole thing. That's because I saw it was like getting logged on Letterboxd by people, and I was like, oh, so this is like. It exists.
Like, it's apparently a fairly famous thing. It's like because this studio goes on to make Evangelion,
Yeah.
it kind of has, I think, in retrospect, become like a, hey, remember when they did this crazy fucking thing where like Darth Vader has a lightsaber battle with this Playboy bunny girl? You know, like
That's actually a portion of it that's the portion of it that I saw, because I think it was showing up as like a Star Wars meme. But I think it's also fascinating too, the idea of like, like the idea of like, well, you can't fire us all. It's like the thing behind a strike. It's just like, what, are all of you gonna sue us?
Yeah, well,
like, come on.
I think it's also like it was just to be for like the exhibition at this convention, and so like there is like a laser disc that was released of it at some points, but it has never been released since because of all of the like licensing issues and rights issues.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So
George Lucas, shut it the fuck down.
But now that there's YouTube, it's like that almost doesn't matter. It's like you can find it, watch it.
Oh, maybe I'll watch that this afternoon.
It's really fun. I mean, and it's like, it has a story, quote unquote, but not really. It's just like 8 minutes of cool animation and every fucking pop culture thing you've ever seen in your entire life popping up on the screen.
I'm going to ask for a spoiler. Do the Ninja Turtles show up?
That's a good question. There is one section of it where for like 3 seconds, a camera pans right. And I'm not kidding, thousands of characters that you're familiar with like flash across the screen. So all I can say is shrug, maybe. Not in a more specific sense, but they might.
Do you remember back in the day when South Park did Imagination Land?
Yeah, I do remember that. It was like a 4-part,
3 or 4 parts, right? But it was essentially them saying we wanted to make another movie, but we didn't want to actually go through the process of making a movie since we have free reign to kind of do what we want on TV.
Right.
And there was a couple shots in that, when it gets to the giant epic battle of imaginary entities where you can pause it and look, and it is, since they're all like heightened versions, like there's no real IP theft. It's just like that's suggested to look like Jason Voorhees. He is in there.
Right.
But there's like a lot of, and actually a lot of people don't know this, but the disclaimer at the beginning of South Park?
Yes.
That's like jokingly like all celebrity voices are impersonated poorly. This is blah, blah, blah. That is actually a pretty sound legal argument. Because, in the closing credits where people say like any resemblance to people living or dead, blah, blah, is entirely coincidental. Even if the movie is just called like The Story of Garrett Smith,
Right. Yeah.
That is, and so that's actually a pretty strong legally binding thing, even though that the wording they have on it is a goof. So they get a lot of mileage out of that. But even so, there's a couple parts that you pause in Imagination Land and you can spend an hour just looking at every single reference being made. And so I imagine this is similar to that kind of thing.
I think so. She's like surfing on a sword that I guess is called like Stormbreaker, and I guess that's from some famous fantasy series that I'm not familiar with. So like even some of
Stormbreaker's in Game of Thrones.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I don't really know the era of when those books started happening.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's like it's one of those things where so like even some of the main references it's making, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like it's it goes so deep on stuff. There's stuff that I'm like, sure, I guess that's a thing. I don't know.
You're like, whatever, pew 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 pew.
Like I think at one point, I like read a little bit up on it. Like at one point, I think there's like maybe a Voltron, but one of its arms is like the spaceship from what's that anime? Like God, what is it called? Battleship Yamato, I think it's called, or something like that. And the other arm is like the Enterprise from Star Trek. So it's like they're literally like they're mixing and matching characters themselves into each other in different parts. It's really wild.
Incredible though. Can you imagine like what the design team before even animating it, just being like, we got to get an image of all of these characters.
That's the other thing. I want to tell you, I think I read that this animation was done by like 12 people or something crazy like that. It's also like fairly well known because it was like a small team of people that made it.
And half of it was probably done by hand.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
That's so insane.
Yeah.
That's like, and that's the thing. Like my prejudice towards animation is so stupid because like I really have nothing but respect for the process. The amount of patience that it takes to make 3 seconds of animation happen, even with computers, is really, at least in terms of how I understand it, unfathomable in a literal sense. I can't figure that, and yet it happens all the time. Yeah. They make these little garden gnomes move around like people. It's unbelievable.
I love it. I like that we circled back to the gnomes.
You gotta.
Do you
Gnome at
remember?
home.
Do you remember David and the Gnomes? Is that a
Oh,
cartoon?
David the Gnome, yeah.
David the Gnome. That's what it is.
David the
Yeah.
Gnome, yeah. The bleakest children's show that has ever existed.
He rides around on a fox, I think.
Rides around on a fox.
Right.
Yeah, I had like a love-hate relationship with David the Gnome because it was like a little bland and brooding for me as a kid, so it like didn't quite pop. But every once in a while there'd be an episode that was legitimately fucking scary, which I loved. And like that was my relationship with it was I don't want to watch David the Gnome. This show is boring. Yeah. But 3 times out of 10 it would give me nightmares, and I was like, well, all right, I should roll the dice on that. That might be worth it.
I remember watching that and the Gummy Bears cartoon. Do you remember the Gummy Bears cartoon?
I remember the Care Bears, and I remember the Dummy Bears on Rugrats was what they watched. I think I remember what the Gummy Bear cartoon looked like. I don't think I've ever actually watched it, though.
They, like, drank this juice, and it made them bounce, and they, like, fought goblins, I think, were the enemies. It was real weird. Yeah, it was real weird.
Why not?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
For some reason, I associate those 2 shows together. That's why I brought that one up. Maybe they played, like, back-to-back in the afternoons when I was watching or something.
And there's a very real chance. I mean, back then there was a very real chance it was just the same fucking team of people making it.
Yes, right. Yeah.
You know, that's just always the way. Yeah, oh man, David the Gnome. That was like, ooh.
You ready for this? This just popped into my head. My brain just remembered this. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere.
No, you're okay. So I have seen Gummy Bears because I remember.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I totally remember that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Yeah. I'm gonna look it up.
Because they drank like pink juice and it made them bounce. Bouncing here and there.
I forgot all about that. You're right. I have seen Gummy Bears then.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's like these little goblin creatures that are like the bad guys.
Is it? Let's see, The Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
Maybe. Yeah. Could be
these guys because I remember this.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh wow. And they're all food. And Tummy Gummy was voiced by Lorenzo Music, who also voiced Garfield and Peter Venkman.
Yes, Lorenzo Music. We've talked about him a few times, I think.
Yeah, well, because that's the dorkiest piece of trivia that I know, is that he always plays the cartoon version of whatever Bill Murray plays the live-action version of, it seems. Because he was both Garfield and Peter Venkman, and so was Bill Murray.
Yeah.
He was live-action Garfield, but, you know, Garfield next to Breckin Meyer, we'll call it. Because he was John. Is it John?
John.
That's
Garfield. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jim's the author. Jim Davis. Yeah.
Yes.
And then John's just
John Arbuckle,
the lonely
right?
bachelor. Yes, John Arbuckle, the lonely bachelor who collects animals.
Yes. Well, would you like to wrap this YouTube episode up, my friend?
Yeah, I guess we can do that. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share, but I guess we can just save it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking around my room because now I've like gotten into decorating it with my stuff.
I know, you're like, oh, what things do I have?
What things do I have? How can I define myself through material worth?
Might as well.
But no, I got nothing.
That's all right. Well, you can find us on moviejawn.com these days. That's JAWN, moviejawn.com. Check out their winter issue. I think you can find that on moviejawn.com. I know I've got an article in there. And you can find me everywhere on the internet at Filmadelphia. That's with an F, F-I-L-M, Adelphia. Oh, and the show, I Like 2 Movie. It's numeric 2. Twitter, Facebook, all those places.
Right on. Yep, so moviejawn.com. If you want to look back at some of our older articles, Cinema 76 is still live, waiting on the transfer. So our archives are there as well, but everything will in the future be on moviejawn.com. I have towards the end of March, I'm starting a column on movies that are true crime and true crime adjacent.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be working on the intersection between true crime and the truth of true crime and how it's can be a ethically murky world to find your entertainment. So we're going to get into that, and I think I'm kicking it off with Memories of Murder.
Cool.
And very excited about that. Check out Hot Property, available on Spotify, and at Dan Scully on all the other things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think my new podcast is coming out soon. It's called Killer Beats.
For it. I keep seeing things on Instagram.
I know, yeah.
I'm only seeing, I'm not hearing.
I finally put the finishing touches on the first episode, and so I think it comes out soon. We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah, it's now that we're Movie John, it's like they're in charge, you know.
Are you willing to share publicly who the first episode is?
Yeah, if I can remember who it is.
Oh yeah, you guys have
we've
like a
done
bunch of the
7 of them now, but I did just turn it. Oh yeah, we're starting with what the hell? Why can't I remember his name? John Saxon.
John. Oh, great choice. Nice.
We're doing it's a 2-parter because John's got a big old career. So.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah, the first 2 episodes are covering John Saxon.
Right on.
So,
oh, nice.
Look forward to that. Killer Bees podcast, Killer BS podcast everywhere.
John Saxon, star of Enter the Drag Gnome.
Yeah. Yes. Nice.
Best I got.
Love it. I love it. Perfect.
Wait, what's the? Oh, yeah, Wes Craven's Gnome Nightmare.
Perfect.
Incredible.
Perfect. A gnome mare on Gnome Street. A gnome mare on Gnome Gnome. No,
Freddy's
no,
dead,
no,
the
no.
final Gnome Mare. No,
Yeah.
no. Whatever. It's all good.
Friday the Gnome-teenth.
That actually says rather nicely, despite being mostly just like nonsense.
Yeah.
Gnome sense, if you will. Will you? Don't.
Mr. Gnome One? Was that what that movie was called? Mr. No One? Is that what it is? What movie am I thinking of? I think it's a Jared Leto movie I'm thinking of.
Oh, Mr. Gnome Buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Gnome Buddy.
I haven't seen that, but yeah. Man, I don't know what it would be called, but if they ever did Dallas Buyers Club with gnomes, that'll be a tough one to mine humor from.
Yeah.
But I mean, if anyone can do it, it's good old Jared Leto.
Well, yeah, we just end on trashing Jared Leto. This episode doesn't even have a closing; it just ends on us trashing Jared Leto.
I gotta say, I actually don't know enough about Jared Leto to have any feelings about him, except that sometimes I enjoy him in movies and sometimes I don't. It's just where I'm at. I could give a shit.
In movies where he's a guy that gets like punched in the face or is just actively weird, I'm usually like, yeah, this is what you belong. This works for you.
I buy it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I want to hit you sometimes. No, I don't know. No, I know he's another one that's controversial. I've just ignored it because I just don't have time in my life for Jared Leto.
Yep. He's weird in Blade Runner, and that works for Blade Runner.
Blade Runner 2040 Gnome.
Hey, I like that.
I'd
watch it. I'd watch it.
I'm into that. Oh my God! Which links me to we've got Indiana Gnomes.
Oh my God!
We can do all of them, and that would be incredible. A little Henry Gnome's gnome whipping things.
Well,
baby.
If we can do Sherlock Gnomes, why can't we do Indiana Gnomes? Like that's what you should be doing. How is that not already a movie?
Why are we making Indiana Jones 5 when we could be making Indiana Gnomes 1?
Yeah.
And changing the face of cinema as it is.
And
unbelievable.
Honestly, that solves the whole problem with trying to make more Indiana Jones movies. Now he's an animated gnome. Done.
It's beautiful.
No problem.
Yeah, if we've got Lego Batman, there's no reason why we can't have Indiana Gnomes.
Insane to me that this is not already a movie.
And honestly, Lord and Miller, put him on it. I'll take their Indiana Gnomes.
Yep.
That would be amazing. Oh, man,
deal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody dies in Indiana Jones, instead of it being bloody or slapsticky or whatever, they would just shatter because they're ceramic. So you can be as violent as you want, and it's not going to matter. It's like when they gave Stewie a ray gun in Family Guy, meant he could shoot anybody. He couldn't give him a real gun. Always a ray gun though. He can kill anyone. So yeah, gnomes can be violently dispatched in endless ways, and it will be still family friendly.
There's the scene where the guy comes at him with the sword, and then he pulls out a gun and just blows the gnome into a bunch of pieces. Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Great. Oh, and the face melting.
The gnome gets caught in the propeller, and it's just...
Yeah. The face melting is literally just like, plaster melting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
You film it in an actual, kiln.
But yes, exactly.
Just let it go. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Pretty good. All right. I'm glad we got there.
Do another hour of just doing gnomes, but so it goes.
No, that's perfect. I'm glad that's where we're ending. My name is Garrett Smith, and I like to movie.
My name is Dan Scully, and I like to movie.
We all know that you like to movie because we
like
to
movie. Gnome.
I wish I had